start with what are the data protections from the lens of a AI/ML. When we talk about the AI/ML, nowadays we all know, right? When we wanted to do any sort of a prediction or any sort of analysis we would like to do in the future, or if I wanted to do the stock market prediction and all, I am looking for the data. Without the data, the analysis is not going to be done. But when it comes to analysis of the data, it is also more important for us whether the data that we are fetching is authentic or is reliable or not. But along with that, are we going through the privacy of someone else or not? Are we breaching the privacy policies or not? Are we misusing the data from anyone else or not? So in the today's session, we are going to talk about this particular content where we'll be seeing what kind of a data can be considered as ethical data or what kind of a data is not going to be ethical from the point of view of AI/ML or the general guidelines that we are having. Okay, so right. So first of all, how much data is getting generated in nowadays, or in every minute, how much data is getting generated? Right. If we look at the WhatsApp messages, this much of a data is getting generated even in a single minute. And if we don't look at it, the number of video calls or the voice calls that we are having worldwide is a lot of a data that is getting generated. Along with that, if we look at the movies or the streams that we are doing, it might be the data from the YouTube videos or maybe from the Netflix or the Hotstar or maybe the Amazon Prime. Any of the website where we are streaming the videos, they all are going to have the data that is generated or that is being transferred from one device to another device in a no go, right? Not only this, we are using the data from the social media sites, right? It might be the Instagram or the Facebook. We are posting the videos or the stories or the messages we are transferring from one device to another device. That is nothing but the uses of the data. But how secure the data that we are transferring from one device to another device is going to be? The data can be secure or cannot be secure. The people who are using our data or where the data is getting stored, it can be a secure way of storing the data or the insecure way also. Right? Are they misusing our data? That is the most important concept that or most important issue that we are having nowadays. Right? Now, when we are having such a huge amount of a data, the next question that we are having is where it can be used. Okay, let me just wait for a minute. Okay.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I hope you all are doing well, and welcome to yet another exciting session at the Career Fair. And my name is Vinodini. I'm going to welcome you all on behalf of Guvi. And today's session is going to be on data protection in the age of artificial intelligence, and where you will learn about fulfilling trust and transparency, navigating the legal landscape, building a secure future for AI. And we will also have a Q&A session at the end of this meet. Please put your questions in the comment box, and at the end of the session, we will be discussing them. And as you've already met Miss Poonam, our guest, she's going to be our host for the session. She's the guest, and she's going to, talk about all this topic today. And as you see, she has already started, and you know what she's going to talk about. So let me just introduce herself, and let me just talk a few things about herself. So yeah, Miss Poonam is a not new person to us, and she has been a part of Guvi, and she mentored like 300 plus candidates, and I am one of them. And I've seen how well she explains the concepts and how calm and composed she is while handling a learner, clearing their doubts and everything. And Poonam has worked as assistant professor and pursued her PhD in data science at IIT Roper, and she is currently working as a consultant at Plaksha University, and her specialization is in data science, machine learning, and AI/ML. So I'll now hand over the session to our guest, Ms. Poonam Adhikari. Hello, Poonam ma'am. Good evening. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for introducing me and for your kind words. It was very nice listening it.
Thank you. Yeah, I have been your student, so I know like how well you teach and how you are. So yeah, that's thank you for that. And yeah, you can continue the session. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. I hope my slides are visible. Okay. Okay. Let me just go ahead where I have left before. Yeah. So we all know, right, how much of a data is getting generated nowadays. If I look at the WhatsApp messages, right, we are just sending the messages or doing the audio calls or the video calls or sending the audio messages or transferring the file from a one mobile phone to another mobile phone, right? But whenever we are transferring the data, the problem here is the transfer of a data is going to from our device to another server that we are having, and from the server to the second person whom we wanted to interact with. Similarly, our voice messages or the video calls that we are having or the videos that we are watching, what kind of a content we are consuming, what are the likes and the dislikes that we are having, right? The stories posted in the WhatsApp or the Instagram or the Facebook or the photos that we are posting, are going to be the misuse of a data. There are going to be a lot, right? If you go to any medicals or if you go to any pharmacy or if you go to any hospital, you are registering yourself. That means you are giving your own personal information to the different users also, right? And they can misuse your data. What kind of a medication you are taking, from what one place to another place where you are traveling, right? What is your social identity number? Nowadays, we earlier we used to have our Aadhaar, PAN, right? These are going to be the documents that we use to prove yes, this is me. But now we do have a social identity as well, and people are going to be using it for our benefit. But along with that, there are a chances that they are going to misuse that data also. Now, what can be the real life implementation that we are using that is going to be the beneficial for us? We all know, right? Google Assistant or the Siri, right? We just say or we just try to ask any question in our phone, just on or turn on our microphones and ask the question, and that is going to give us the insights about it, whatever question we try to ask here. Along with this, if we are having an Apple Watch or the smartwatches that are available nowadays, they are going to provide us about our health insights, how many steps we have walked, what is the oxygen level, right, the blood pressure level, and so on and so forth. A lot of information is there. What if that information lead to someone else who is going to misuse that, right? Or if you go to the YouTube, for example, today you are watching the video about the linear regression, right, in the machine learning, but tomorrow you started watching some other things. For example, you started watching some cookery shows, or you started watching some entertainment videos. That entire data is getting monitored by someone else, and they can tell you what kind of a videos you are watching, and based on that, what are going to be your interest, that are going to be having a targeting marketing. Maybe if you are looking the products about the Amazon purchases by the different user, maybe you also wanted to purchase that. Now let me show you those products as advertisement so that you can be my potential buyer. Or the data security by the different banks that we are having. And if you're using the maps, Google Maps or the Apple Maps, right, you might have seen that you get to know the location where you wanted to go, you get to know the path that you wanted to travel from a one place to another place, but it is also keeping your information from one place to another place where you have traveled. Your GPS is on, right? Your location is shared by many applications. Along with that, the auto tracking cameras in everywhere in the India, right, or even in the world, we all have the auto tracking cameras that are going to do a surveillance as a very large level, mass level. And let's suppose if I'm having your image, right, I have a tons of your image from your social media post. Is it possible for me to extract your information from there and identify where you are currently located in? Yes, easily, right? So along with the profit, or along with uses of the data, along with ease of uses, there is a possibility that the data that we are having can be misused in future, and we don't wanted that, right? Because nowadays we do have a facial recognition, or the Alexa, right, the Google Homes, credit card transactions that we are doing in our supermarket, or the online transactions that we are having, right? No doubt data is helping us do a lot of enhancements in our day-to-day life, but along with that we do have issues, or we do have the privacy content concerns with it. So what can be the data that are going to be difficult for us, or that we are hesitated in sharing? It can be any kind of a personal data, maybe your face, right? What kind of a content that you are consuming in the digital media, right? What, from where one place to another place, what is your travel, what kind of a vehicle you are using, what kind of a house you are staying in, what is the status of your house, how many family members are there in a house, what is your routine, right? Any data that can tell you, or that can help you identify yourself easily, or that can help you identify who you actually are going to be your personal data. And before you give the such kind of a data to anyone, right, or any third party application, you should be very careful about it. Now, whenever we are talking about the data, right, so how much amount of a data we are having, or how much amount of a data is getting generated, by what rate the data is getting generated, whether the source of a data we are having is authentic or not, or what are the different phase of getting the data, or the diversity of a data, that is going to be the four V's of the data that we are going to talk. Now, the very first we represent the volume of the data. That means at a given time, what is my objective? Let's suppose I wanted to analyze the stock market of India, a particular company. Let's take a Tata Invest or a Tata Motors, anyone, right? XYZ company you can take. In a per minute or in a per second basis, right? Or if I wanted to take the entire data, how much of a data is going to be there? Right? Is it in the TBs or in the GBs, or how much? From what duration we are taking the data? As we increase the span of the duration, the size of a data is also going to be increased. Along with that, the velocity of the data. At what rate the data is getting changed, right? For example, if I'm talking about the YouTube videos, right? Every second the people are posting the videos, and every second people are consuming the videos. So that is going to increase the velocity, the by what rate we are extracting the data, or by what rate we are generating the data, or we are getting the data, right? It can be your Instagram stories, or the posts that you are posting in your Instagram, or maybe the Facebook, or the emails that you are sharing with your colleagues, or maybe with your friends. But whenever you are getting the data, or whenever you are having such kind of a data, right, based on what analysis you would like to do, you should always concern about whether the data is certain or not, whether you can trust that source of a data or not, right? There are so many websites or so many places from where you can get a manipulated data also. So whenever we wanted to do any kind of a research, or any kind of analysis we wanted to do, any kind of establishment that we wanted to do, we have to first verify what is the source of the data. Whether certainly we can say yes, the source that we are getting is correct or not, or whether the source that we are having is authentic or not, right? Along with that, we are going to have the variety of the data, right? What kind of a data we are trying to analyze for the time being? Is this the data about in the data is in the text format? Maybe I'm talking only about the messages that you are sharing on the WhatsApp, right? Or maybe I'm talking about the videos that you are uploading in the YouTube, or maybe the emails that you are exchanging, and all, right? So the variety of a data. So whenever we talk about the data, we always talk from these four perspectives. How much data you are extracting, right? What is the speed by which you are getting the data, right? And whether the data source that you are having is authentic or not, and what are the different forms of a data that you are extracting, right? Now, once you extracted the data, you can apply any of your algorithms that you would like to use to do the predictions, right? Why we are doing the data, or why we're extracting the data? Because we wanted to take a right decision that is supported by the data. And to take the right decision, we wanted to say, we wanted to extract the data and do the prediction for the future. What should be the correct decision to take? It can be the algorithm from the artificial intelligence, or maybe the machine learning, or maybe the deep learning. It can be any one of them. But once you're applying these algorithms, right, you are given with the new data. You are going to give this new data to your machine learning algorithms, right, doing the prediction and identifying whether the predictions are correct or not. That evaluating your model. But when you are getting the data, what are the various steps that you have to go through? First, you will be doing the data collection, right? Based on what problem statement that you are having in your hand, you will be collecting your data. You will be articulating your problem, defining what kind of a data is required. For example, I would like to know which shampoo brand is most popular among the youngsters. For that, what I'm going to do, I'll go to the social media and identify, try to extract the data regarding the shampoo, right? And I'll see which shampoo is most mentioned by the different users, right? Try to clean the data that I have got, right? Find if there is anything wrong with the data. Try to identify if there is what kind of a sampling I should do, because to extract such a huge amount of a data from the social media, right? Data need not to be always correct. I need to go through it. I need to clean the data, transform the data, find out what are the things that are available, what are the hidden patterns that are available in the data, right? And the data that we are extracting can be in any format. It can be a structured data, that is the data in the form of a tabular format. It can be a semi-structured data, sometimes in the form of a JSON, MongoDB, right? Or a no structured data. It can be the data that is in the form of images or the videos or the PDFs, right? So data type that you are having are going to be varying from a one type of a data to another type of a data. And with the help of taking, like, you should be able to compute if you are given with the data in the structured format, that is a tabular format of the data. You should be able to extract the data, clean the data, identify the useful information from the data, and use your algorithms that you would like to use, and find the or take the right decision in it, right? Now, when we talk about the structured data and unstructured data, structured data can be that can be represented in the form of a tabular format. It can be a numbers, dates, or the strings, right? But very less amount of a data is actually present in the form of a structure. On the other hand, lot of a data is unstructured. That is a data in the form of a documents, right? For example, if you shared your social media, right? You shared a one post, and in the another social media you shared another post. We should be able, like, people, what the people are doing to identify whether you are going to be a potential buyer or a potential customer or not, they are going to aggregate the data from a multiple sources, right? Combine it together and try to understand what is your take on this, whether you are going to be the potential buyer or not. For example, I started a gym, right? I wanted to understand who are going to be my potential members for the gym. So I look for the people who are looking for the weight loss, right? Whose search history says the weight loss, right? Or body toning kind of a thing, or who are looking for the good food, who are looking for the good exercises, right? And I look at whether they are in my neighborhood or not. I'll go through their social media accounts. I'll try to extract that information, right? But is that way of extracting the information is correct or not? Because if I'm going through a particular user, right, extracting the information about his or her dislikes, where the person is, I'm trying to identify the personal identity, then it is going to be unethical way of extracting the data, and it's called as a target marketing, right? Which is not allowed, right? So from where you can extract the data? You can extract the data from any of the source that is allowing, or that is allowing the user to share the information freely. That can be from the cloud, that can be from the web, that can be from the IoT or the sensors that you are having, social media profiles, but not the personal information, social influencers that are freely sharing their information, activity generated data, right? For example, how many steps a user is having, but without taking their personal information, right? And once you get the data, you are going to first extract the data, you're going to annotate the data, right? Label the data, whether it is correct or not, whether this is going to be a potential buyer or not. You're going to apply your machine learning or the AI or the deep learning algorithm, test your model, and deploy it. But once you're collecting the data, what can be the sources that you are having? It can be the data from the surveys. That means you are going to the different people and asking a certain amount of a question and asking for the response from the user. You are going to analyze the data. Sometimes people are not going to share the personal information, completely fine. You cannot force it, right? The data should be ethically taken. Secondly, second source of a data extraction can be a web scraping. Web scraping means you go to a particular website that is free to share their information or free to give the information that is present in their website, right? Many other websites are going to specify, right? We are not sharing the information for any commercial purpose. So those kind of information you cannot take. Or you can do the API calls, right? Application programming interface, where the websites or the different packages that we are having, they are going to allow you to extract the information without any problem. Okay. Once the data has been taken, right? How to do the survey? To whenever you wanted to do the survey, you can do a market research, right? Employee satisfaction related surveys, job satisfaction related surveys, or the training evaluation, whether the students are able to understand the content that has been delivered or not. Once the interview has been done, whether the interviewer is happy with the questions that has been asked during the interview, or what kind of interview has been done, right? Those kind of a surveys you can take, but without specifying the, like, without taking the personal information, without harming the personal identity of the user. Secondly, once you get the data, because we'll be now getting the data from the multiple sources, you have to first merge the data, right? Identify if there are any missing values or not, standardize the data, right? Make it everything in the one particular format, verify it, and then only apply the machine learning algorithm or explore the data, right? Now you can use a different machine learning algorithms. It can be a supervised machine learning algorithm, unsupervised, or the reinforcement as well. It can be an AI ML algorithm, or it can be a deep learning algorithm. But whenever you are collecting the data, right, once the pipeline is ready, but before you start collecting the data, you have to first make sure that there is no biasness in the data and the data is fair, right? No biasness, and the data collection source that you are doing should be a fair. So how to make sure? For example, you wanted to identify the data about the election or upcoming election. In that particular case, you are going to say, I'm not biased toward a particular party, or I have no opinion towards a particular political party. Then only I am going to collect the data. Right? The very first problem whenever we are getting the data is going to be, many a time the researcher or the data collected person is going to be a bias. For example, if I wanted to collect the data from a Delhi, right? Understanding the whether they are going to be giving the election to a which political party. What I have done, I have targeted a one particular portion of the Delhi only. I'm not taking the data from the entire Delhi, because it might happen that the one particular region of the Delhi is biased towards a one particular political party based on what are the pros and the cons, or what is the opinion about that political party. But if you're not taking the sampling from the entire Delhi, it is going to be a little problematic for us, right? So we have to make sure that the sampling method that we are using to collect the data are going to be non-biased sampling method. Secondly, whatever algorithm that we wanted to use, right? It should give us the unfair prediction. Many a time what happens due to the imbalanced data that we are having, right? For example, gender imbalance, or if you wanted to do the prediction for whether a person is having a cancer or not, in which the sample size that we're having is going to be very less. In such a scenario, the data is going to be a bit biased as well, right? For example, especially in case of an income that has been found recently, that the females during the prediction, right, the machine learning models are also going to be the bias in the prediction, because the data that has been fed in the machine learning model, right, the higher income are only the males, right? And if you look at the females, they are automatically going to be getting a lesser income or the lesser salary, right? So this kind of a biasness should not be there in our machine learning algorithm, right? What can be the source of the biasness? It can be a historical bias, right? The social inequalities, right, that is reflecting in the data. For example, this gender information, right? Or the bias during the collection of the data, or the bias can be due to the limited diversity in the data. It might happen there are very few females who are at the very good positions, who are at the managerial position. There are very few females, or very few females who are in the CEO's position. They are getting a less salaries. Completely fine, right? So in such a scenario, I wanted my machine learning model not to be the bias, right? And when it comes to AI and ML, right? For example, if I try to extract the data about the incomes of the male and the female from a particular organization, I got the name of a person, I got the different address that seems to be non-identifiable for the person. But if we try to extract the information from the multiple sources, our softwares or our machine learning algorithms or the AI and the ML that we are using nowadays, they have the ability to map all the different sources of the data and identify who that person is actually in, right? It has been identified by just using the zip code, right? And your bit of information, maybe your email address or maybe your phone number, a user can reach your home, or any person can reach your home or identify who you actually are, right? So a small details that seems to be a non-relevant to us, that we share without any problem, they are going to be a bit problematic as well when it comes to sharing of the resource. For example, we are posting our images on the social media, right? And if we look at a very big surveillance system that is available nowadays, what is going to happen in the very big surveillance system where people are going from a one place to another place? For example, I'm traveling from Chandigarh to, let's suppose, a Bangalore, right? So at a time T1, right, today is 25th March, 23rd March. In the 23rd March, if I was found or located in the Chandigarh's airport, and in the 26th March I have been located in the Bangalore's airport, they can make a connection that the person is traveling from a city A to city B, because everywhere there is a surveillance camera, right? They can map or they can relocate where I am going to be. If they can map my location, that means they can also identify for what purpose I was in that location, right? That is going to be a big problem in concerns of the security as well, right? So given your image that you are uploading in your Facebook or anywhere, using that, not only we can map or not only we can identify who that person is, along with that we can try to generate the similar kind of the images of that person, that is called as the deep fakes. Okay, I'll show you in a few minutes. That is going to be called as a deep fakes. And once we are generating those images, we can add the voice that we wanted to add, right? And modulate any kind of information that we wanted to get from the user, right? So if you wanted to do a video call, let's suppose I'm sitting here, I can just mask my image being someone else, right? Add someone else's voice that I have extracted from their social media or some from their personal information, right? And try to mimic or try to ask for some financial assistance from their relatives and so on and so forth. This kind of a frauds has been cashed up. That's why the personal information that you are sharing over the internet, you should be very cautious about it. It need not to be only your face or your voice or the images or the posts that you are posting in the social media. Along with that, it can be your bank details, it can be your identification details, maybe your Aadhaar numbers or maybe your license numbers, right? That are going to be particularly identifying you. So you should be very careful while sharing these informations, right? And if we look at the biggest breaches that has been happened, right? The Facebook, Shanghai, Microsoft, right? Indian Citizen, Oxy Data, Sun Universe, everywhere the data is getting lost. It can be in the form of your phone numbers, right? Full names, locations, your email addresses, or biographical information, right? Lot of people are sharing their information in the online, right? Going online and sharing their information with their friends and the families, and that kind of information can be shared or can be sold out to different companies for their target marketing. Okay, along with it, when this digital era comes into the picture, right? Obviously, because the data is getting shared over the social media or it's available to the public for their use case, so there are going to be a lot of rules and the regulation that has come into the picture. Okay, so the very basic guidelines that has been issued during in the protection of the data are like whether the data that we have collected is fairly collected or not, or is collected lawfully or not. For example, you are running a clinic or a lab, right? Now you have taken the blood samples from a particular XYZ person who came just to do a checkup for the dengue, right? While collecting their blood samples, are you misusing that information or not? Right, are you using, for example, you found, okay, in the user's blood sample I found a bit of a high level of glucose, or maybe a sugar content is very high. Am I selling that information, or am I selling that report with some medicine companies or not? Or when I'm collecting the data, am I informing the user that this kind of a data has been collected from you, that is going to be used for some XYZ reason? Are you okay with it or not? Or am I collecting the data lawfully or not? In case you're using anyone's personal information for your project or for your own benefit, then that is going to be a bit problematic for you. Okay. Second thing is the transparency of the data. Okay. So when you are specifying what is the purpose of the data that you are collecting, for example, XYZ user came and he said, okay, I wanted my blood test. I wanted to test XYZ parameters, blood glucose level, right? The thyroid status, how much of vitamin I am having, the iron content in the body, and so on and so forth, right? So the user should be very clear about, if you wanted to share some information with some companies, specifying, if I'm taking your information, I'm going to give this information to some person, the user is transparent about it or not, whether the data, his or her data, is getting shared with the anyone else or not. Or before you are sharing, are you sharing the data lawfully or not? Secondly, the quantity of a data, right? While you're doing any kind of a research, whether the quantity of a data you are having is enough or not, are you taking a very excessive amount of a personal information or not? For example, for your own research or for your own project, you wanted to take the data about their iron level. Okay, so what kind of a food they are consuming leading to a low iron, or the low anemia, leading to the anemia status in the pregnant women, or any of the girls, or the maybe the men's, right? You wanted to make sure that the quantity of a data that you are taking should be enough but not excessive. That means you are not taking a data from millions of the user or the thousand of a user even if you don't need it. That means you are trying to take the data that is not even required and can lead to the misuse of the data also. So the protection acts are going to tell you like the quantity should be sufficient but not in the excessive, right? Second thing is the accuracy. When you are taking the data, whether the data is accurate or not, for how long you are taking the data, and it is the individual rights whether the data wanted to be shared or not, right? Following all the security concerns. Now, when we talk about the concerns or the privacy concerns from the point of view of the AI and the ML, we are going to talk from the, like, we all know mass surveillance is there, targeted advertisement is there, but when we are sharing the information, what is the best way of sharing the information. Or if someone wanted to use if you wanted to use someone's information that seems to be a little personal information, how to use it safely. Or if you wanted to share the personal information to some XYZ company lawfully, what can be the lawful acts that you can do, right? Or how lawfully you can share the information. First thing can be you can anonymize the data, or that can lead to the de-identification of the user. For example, you are having your own name, right? Some patient came to your clinic or your lab and he said, okay, I would like to take my test. So, for that, he might have shared the information about what is her name or his or her name, what is his or her age, right? What is his or her mobile number. So the irrelevant information that needed not to be shared, for example, the mobile number or the email, because you don't wanted the person to be contacted, but if you wanted the name of the person to be shared, you can try to anonymize that, right? You can try to encrypt that particular data. And then you can share it to a research company where they wanted to use the information for the research purpose, but not to take the information for the persons or not to target a particular person. Okay, so when we talk about the privacy, right, the privacy is nothing but right to be alone, right? If you do not wanted to share your personal information, it should not be shared. No one should be forced to share their personal information, right, for the public matter. Or if they do not want to disclose their personal information, they should be left alone, right? So you cannot forcefully take the information. And when we are talking from the perspective, one is going to be the privacy, where user is saying, I don't want to share the information, or I don't want to share my personal information. Second thing is going to be the security. Security is user said, I don't want to share, but you are forcefully taking that data, right? For example, you are doing a transaction from your mobile or from your laptop to the Amazon. Now, in between, what is happening in between the your laptop and the Amazon? In between, you are in a same pipeline where you are connected with the internet. If someone, when you are sharing your credit card details, right, obviously there is a privacy, right? They are having a secure network. But if there is not a secure network, then if you're sharing your personal information or your credit card information, it is quite possible that the people, right, are going to be coming inside your network, right? Whatever information you are putting on, that information can be extracted, and your credit cards or your debit card details or your email or your personal information can be used for their own benefit. For example, they wanted to do their own purchase from your credit card, right? Because they got the necessary information. What is your credit card? What is your CVV, right? The number, what is your expiry date, right? They can, if they can read the messages as well, they can read the OTPs, and they can do the credit card frauds as well, right? But we do have a secure networks, but even if we do have a lot of a security, there is always a possibility that people are going to come inside the network. They are going to fetch our very confidential information and make the harm, right? So only the privacy and the security is not going to be the only one factor. You should be also careful whether you are sharing your what kind of a details you are sharing. For example, if you look at a true caller, right, if you wanted to see someone's name, you have to install the Truecaller. The Truecaller is going to access your contacts. Truecaller is going to access your photos, your emails, and lot of other information as well, right? Just to show someone's name, why they needed the your images. Or many other application that you might be using nowadays, they are going to be accessing your photos, they are going to be accessing your locations, right? Even if those kind of informations are not required, they are using it or they are saving it for their own benefit, right? Now, which data that you are supposed to keep safe? Whenever we are talking from the perspective for data protection, we need to be very careful what kind of a data can be shared, what kind of a data cannot be shared. The data about your person, right? The name, your identification number. It can be the identification number about your Aadhaar, right? Your mobile, your PAN, your passport, and any other detail that you are having. Your location data, where you are currently in, your psychological, your genetics, your mental status, your social identity, right? Social identity doesn't mean that you cannot share your Facebook ID, right? You can share your Facebook, but you have to make sure that with whom you are sharing it. If it is within your network, within your trusted network, right, then it is completely fine. But if you feel like it is an intruder that is trying to extract your own information, then it should not be shared, right? So any data that is going to help anyone identify who you are actually should not be shared, right? Once they get to know who you actually are, then they can identify what are your behavior, what are your choices, right? They can do the target marketing as I have specified. They can take up your financials. They can do a lot of manipulations as well, right? So to protect our data, we do have an agency called GDPR, right? General Data Protection Regulations, that are saying whenever you are taking anyone's data for your research purpose or for any kind of a thing, right? You should not take anyone's name. It should be anonymized. You cannot take the physical attributes. For example, what is the weight, what is the height, what is the physical appearance, like that. You cannot take anyone's health information, right? Whether a person is low in the anemia, low in the iron, that kind. You cannot take any of the economics or the cultural or the social identity of a person, any identification number, any IP address, or the location, right? That means any data that is going to uniquely identify a person, directly or indirectly, that should not be taken. That is the only concern that we are having, right? So when the GDPR is specifying the rules for the what can be considered as a personal data, so these all domains that we are having are going to be considered as your personal data. And in case you are having this as a personal data, that means this kind of a data should not be shared. Okay. For example, your URLs, account numbers, devices that you're having, your geographical, your phone numbers, your medical health insurance, or your email addresses, right? Biometrics, or your birth date, social security numbers, that need not to be. But what are the problems that you can have when you are having such kind of a data, or whenever you are sharing this kind of information? What can happen, right? We have seen, or we can observe, large scale manipulation can happen, right? With the help of a deep fakes, the way I have specified it earlier also. That means if someone is having your image, they can take your image, right? They can manipulate your image in a certain way, right? And generate the new image that looks exactly or very similar to you, right? And the users, it is very difficult nowadays to identify which one is a fake and which one is a real. Secondly, the misinformation and the manipulation. For example, with your interest, or whatever your interests are, whatever your friends are, right? I get to know, or the secondary person get to know all the information about you, and using that particular information, he or she would like to connect it with one of the person in your network and take the monetary benefits from them, or maybe try to spread the misinformation about you or any of the xyz person. It can not only be a problematic from the financial point of view, but it can be the problematic from the reputational point of view as well, right? If someone else is using your identity, they can try to reputational damage for you. They can connect with any of your network, anyone in your network, and try to spread the misinformation about you, right? It can be a discrimination, right? And it can be the and the another problem can be like, we are going to be depending very much on the AI, We are going to be losing the connection with the humans. And once such kind of a data is given, then the job displacements and the economic inequality that we are going to have. For example, if today I got to know, okay, these are going to be my targeted audience because I extracted their information by any hit and trick, right? So I need not to do the advertisements because I know this is the person whom I have to target. So I need not to, or the companies need not to do the advertisement on a large scale, right? Now, whenever we are sharing or whenever we are getting the data, right, the very first thing that we have talked is a transparency, right? Clearly communicate our data practices that you are going to use in the AI and ML uses. Secondly, we should take as minimum data as possible that is required for your research purpose. Collect and process that data that is required only, not a lot of a data. If you do not need someone's personal information or if you do not need a XYZ information, then don't take it, right? Even if you are taking it, right, individual information you are taking it, you have to anonymize it. For example, you are trying to understand what is the status of the or what is the traffic status in the Bangalore, right? We all know it is mess. But if you're trying to capture the data with the help of your cameras, right, so you should not show their maybe a vehicle numbers, maybe their face, right? Whatever is going to identify who he or she was, that kind of identity should not be revealed, right? At what time? Because if I'm having a photograph of a XYZ person in a one traffic light, stuck in a one traffic light, right, that is going to be a bad impact, because using that, anyone can track, okay, this person was at this particular place at this particular time, and that should not be done. Okay. Second is accountability. Now whoever is taking the data, right, they are accountable about the privacy of the data or how they are going to handle the data. Okay. Now, when we talk about the GDPR, that is general guidelines for the data protection regulation. So first is lawfulness, right? Whenever you are taking the data, it should be fair, it should be transparent, it should be taken for the limited purpose, right? Minimum amount of a data, it should be accurate data, it should not be incorrect data that is getting given, and you are always going to have a storage limitation. You cannot take a lot of a data. Who is accountable for this data, and whether the data is confidential or not, or whether the data is going to be shared with some XYZ person or not, that is not allowed, right? Anyone, any questions so far? Right? And if we are following all those things, but along with that, we have to make sure the policies, right? We are now able to match the policies that we are having, data policies we are able to match. We have to take a clear consent from the users. We have to register the consents that we are having, and the user, if the user is not free of sharing the information, he or she can like say, okay, I don't want it to share the information, he or she is free to not share the information. Okay. Now, whenever we are talking, like so far we are talking about the strategies how to protect the data or what kind of a data to be taken. Even if we are taking anyone's data, the very first thing is encryption of the data, right? We have to secure the data. For example, if someone name is given to you, right, try to jumble the words or try to encrypt the data in some particular format, so that the person who is getting the data should not be able to identify who that XYZ person is. And if you open your WhatsApp, right, it is going to be specified your data or your chats are encrypted. That means whatever messages you are sending to your friend, that message is sent in the encrypted format, that the person, even if the person try to come to your network, try to read the messages that you are sending to your friends, right, he or she will not be, because he or she will not be able to understand what you have written, because that data is encrypted. Okay, for example, I wanted to write a word strategies, So, by some mathematics behind it, I'm going to convert this word strategies in some other particular way, or in other word, so that the user will not be able to understand whether what kind of a word was written there. Okay. Second is access control, whom the data should be given, whether we are giving the data to the correct person or not, right? So we have to be very strict, like the government is very strict about implementing who can get the control of the data or who cannot get the control of the data. Recently you might have heard the news about like our Aadhaar KYCs and all, in which usually earlier what we used to have in our Aadhaar, we do have a lot of information, right? We have our iris data, our right, our facials, our fingerprints are there, right? Everything is there in our Aadhaar. That is going to help me uniquely identify, or that can help anyone uniquely identify who am I. Now the government, what the government has done, they have found the misuse of the information, and because the data was getting misused, they said okay, this is not allowed. So what we should do, they started giving us the anonymized Aadhaar as well, in which they said okay, the last few digits of the Aadhaar are going to be visible, right? You just download that, and wherever a person requires the authentication, right, there you can use that particular Aadhaar, anonymized Aadhaar as well, in which they can see okay, this is a real person, this is an Indian citizen, and this is the address or the common information that can be shared, that is going to be available, but entire Aadhaar number is not going to be available for the user. Okay. Earlier, people can download your own Aadhaar even if they have your Aadhaar number. They can use, they can take your SIM cards, or like a take SIM cards in your names as well before the KYC, or before the thumbs, before your fingerprint authentication, right? And lot of a misuse cases has been seen, and that's why these regularities were there. Along with this, right, regular audits needed to be done, whether the data that has been shared to the XYZ person, is it audited properly, or if it is not shared with anyone else or not. And the regular consents, whoever is giving the data, while taking up the data, we should take the consent from the user. Okay. Now, whenever we talk about the data protection, we all know when we are having the this world of the AI ML, right? Data science, AI ML. In this, data is the oil, right? And if I'm having someone's personal information, that means I can identify anything about that person. I can identify what is the social number. I can go to the social medias, right? I can look at their comments, I can read their emails, I can get their credit card information, I can get their personal information, I can get their health insights as well. Everything I can get it. If I can get all those information, that is going to be a bit problematic, right? And if I'm having the data in some XYZ place and some other place, my AI ML is so good nowadays that they can map it also, right? So this XYZ person, like for example myself, Poonam, right? I am watching a movie in the Netflix, from using which I have created the Netflix account with the help of my Gmail ID, or with the help of my mobile number, right? I have logged into the Netflix, I have watched the series. I'll see, okay, in the Gmail, using the Gmail, where else I have logged in, right? I'll go to the Netflix, or some XYZ company will try to go to the Netflix and try to see what kind of a content I am watching, right? If the person is watching a movie or the series, or maybe something, right? Maybe that kind of a series is liked by the user. And if we look at the YouTube, I might get the similar recommendations. If I try to book a ticket from a Chandigarh to Bangalore, right? So I'll start getting the advertisement about the what are the ticket prices that are going to be there from the Chandigarh to Bangalore, right? That is nothing but like breaching of my privacy. The data that even if I don't wanted to share, the data is going to be shared. What can be a best possible way not sharing the data? Uses of the incognito mode, where you're not keeping the history, or where you are not sharing the cache of your data. Okay, you're not sharing the cookies of the data of your browsings, because our AI is capable of mapping all the various data sets that we are having. For example, you have invested some amount in your FDs, you have invested some amount in the RDs, right? You are doing the stock market as well. Okay, you are doing some expense in your Amazon or the social in your e-commerce web pages. You are doing some dining in some restaurant using the same credit card, right? Entire data can be mapped, and using the AI ML we can extract the information. What kind of a thing that you are going to like, what is your daily routine, right? From which restaurant you would like to have a lunch, to which shopping mall from where you are going to purchase your joggers, right? And what you are likely to wear, or what kind of a food you are likely to eat, what kind of a things you are not likely to use. So entire information can be mapped together. And if such kind of information can be mapped together, it is going to be a bit problematic for us, right? From the perspective of the data security. So one of the very easiest method that we can try to implement is, we can try to encrypt the data, right? So what we can do, let's suppose I'm having the data, I'll be having a, it is called as a public key, right? That I'm having with the help, it's just like a, I'm locking my data that no one else can see. I'll be encrypting my data, and that encrypting data I'm going to share it to the client, whoever wanted to see it, or the user whoever wanted the data. Okay. Now once the data is given, right, or the model is trained, I'm going to get back the results and decrypt the data. For example, to the machine learning model, I wanted to train my AI ML model. In that case also, I have to make sure that the data that I am providing should be encrypted format. I'll give the encrypted formatted data to my machine learning or the AI ML model. Whatever results I am getting, for example, I started from here, right? I have the data. I encrypted this data. Encrypted means, for example, if I have a column in the data called the gender, I wanted that particular column called the gender to be anonymized. That means a user gender should not be visible. And instead of having the column name gender, I can have some other column name, right? Instead of specifying male or the female, I can have some other words that is not going to identify whether a person is a male or a female, right? That is not leading to understanding whether a person is a male or a female, or a person, or this data is about whether a person is beautiful or ugly, or whether a person is data scientist or non-data scientist, right? So your machine learning model should not be able to identify that. Now, on that encrypted data only I'm giving it to my machine learning model, or any of my model, right? It can be IML reinforcement learning models, or my deep learning models, right? I'm giving it to the model. The model is going to give me the output is going to be in the encrypted format only. Whatever encrypted output that model is giving, I'm going to use the secret key, that is a decryption, whatever output I am getting, right? And I'll try to read that data. This way, I am not even sharing my personal information that I have gathered from the user to my machine learning algorithm as well, so that the data is going to be secure. Okay, the very first way, or the very easiest way of doing the encryption, right, or hiding the data from the different users, are going to be this one, that is encrypting the data and giving the encrypted data to your machine learning models. Once the model is trained, the data or the results that you are going to get is also in the form of an encrypted format. And if it is again in the form of encrypted, you do the decryption and read the result in your own format. Okay. Now, second way of doing the encryption is, or nowadays, because the size of a data is too huge, right? So it's too much, and it is very difficult for us to use a one laptop or use a one particular server where we can train our machine learning models and get the appropriate results. That is actually a difficult process nowadays. For example, if I wanted to only read the data about the Indian census, right? Understand how much the income level the different users are having in the cities and the rural areas. So think about the population of India only. It's really huge. If I wanted to extract the information about the all the videos that has been posted by the Indian content creator, right? Think about the data or the videos that they are going to upload, the amount of comments that they might be doing in the videos. It's in a huge, it's in a tremendous amount. And even if I wanted to go through the comments only, right, the amount of a data that is going to be generated is going to be really big. If it is so, right, it's not possible for us to give the entire data in a one server and train our machine learning models. So in that particular case, what we generally do, we apply the federated learning. That means I'm having my own computer, and my computer is going to be connected to many others in the network. I'll be giving my data to individual computers that are available in my network, like, and I wanted the each model or each computer to be trained on a subset of the data, right? I'm not giving the same data to everyone. I'm giving a different data to everyone, quite a bit of a different data to everyone, and wanted each computer or each device to be trained on that particular data, right? Because I'm not giving the entire data, obviously individually this particular computer or this particular device, this device and this device, that is a local small devices that I have created, they are going to be performing very poorly. Because some, if I give the entire data in a one particular place, then it might be able to map the information and get the information about the one particular user, and I don't wanted that. In that particular case, what is required to be done, I'll give a portion of a data to the first device, portion of a data to second, portion of a data third, portion of a data to the fourth, right? And so many. Now I'll merge all the models together, because now I'm not sharing the same information to the many users, which seems to be independent. I don't wanted many devices to getting the similar data. I wanted to give them a separate data so that the model can be safely trained, right? Small models can be safely trained. And at the later end, once the model is trained on their local devices, right, I wanted to take the individual models, because in the models I'm not going to have the data, I'm going to have the trained models that are not going to give me the data, and then map them together. Okay, the server is going to be coordinating with the all the global AIs that we are having. So what I'm going to do, let's suppose I do have a data about Indians, about the YouTube. I'm going to give the comments from a one channel to one device, comments from another channels to another device, comments from another channel to another device. I trained my machine learning models, understand the sarcasm in the comments that the user are doing. Each individual model or each individual device is not going to be a very strong learner. They're going to be the weak learners. And at the end, I wanted to combine all the weak learners so that my machine learning model is not able to get the encrypted, like not able to get the personal information from the user. It is going to be really fast, because I'm now giving a subset of a data to be trained on. And at the end, I'm going to collect entire data in a one particular server so that the data is encrypted. Along with that, I'm not sharing the data. First thing. Second thing is, I am getting all the trained models individually and segregating them or collecting them together, making it a strong model. Okay, this particular kind of model training technique is also quite famous nowadays, where we are protecting the privacy of the users, right? We are able to get the models trained very quickly. We are not sharing the data with everyone, the personal information, and we are able to get the work done that we wanted to. Okay. Second thing is, when we talk about the interpretability, right, and the transparency, we said we wanted the transparency of the data, but If we look at the transparency, right, and as you increase the trust level, right, after a big enhancement, right, after a particular level, the transparency of a data is going to be, like, as you increase the transparency, the trust is going to be low, right? So model is not going to be training much better, more well, right? Along with that, if I look at the explainability of my machine learning models, that is also going to be a one of the important tasks, right? Explainability means how well my model is able to give me the explainable answers. So if I look at the traditional machine learning models such as the decision trees, right, the rule based models, explainability is quite high, but the performance is low. But as we look at the more and more performance, the explainability is going to be the less and the less, right? If my model is complex, that means the explainability of the model is going to be a bit lesser and the performance is going to be the high. On the other hand, if the explainability of the model is high, then the performance is going to be on the bit of a lower side. Okay. Similarly, when we are sharing the data, as we have already discussed, when we have a raw data, we should have a policy how to anonymize the data, right? Then those anonymized data can be shared to the third person, right? And what are the different ways of doing the anonymization, right? We can try to protect the privacy of the user by, for example, this first case, right? Randomize anonymization. I do have a data which represent the name of the different users, where Asima, right, and different names are given to us. Now, what I have done, I have taken the name of the first user and randomly, I have just shuffled the words. That way, here, as you can see, I'm not able to read properly, right? If I do the analysis of the data, maybe I'll be able to read. But if I'm having a very large amount of a data, in that particular case, I'll not be able to understand what is the technique that the user has used it, right? Because it is completely random. There is no pattern in the data that is going to give you that is going to help you identify who the user actually was, right? I have just shuffled the sensitive data with some random values. One very easy technique, right? Second thing can be, rather than giving the exact value, for example, a user is saying, okay, I don't wanted to share my exact salary. For example, if you go to the banks to open your accounts, or if you go to any of the branch of the bank and you wanted to say, okay, I wanted to apply for the loan or the credit cards, then they will not be asking about your exact salary. They are always going to ask about the range of the salary, because instead of getting the exact salary means you're trying to get their personal information. On the other hand, if you're having a range of the salaries, right, 31,000 to 50K, right, it is going to be a range of a values, then you are not getting the exact value and the privacy of a user is going to be maintained. And the data that you would like to extract, that also you can extract it very easily. Okay, for example, in this case, if you are having a 95,000, you are saying the range of the salary is 81,200K, right? For the 42,000, that falls in the range of a 31 to 50K. So rather than giving a exact or same value, what you can do, you can try to give a range, right? You can try to give the aggregation of the data. The very first technique or the very easiest technique is just shuffle the words if you're having a string data. Second way of doing the anonymization is going to be giving up the range if you're having a numerical value, right? Third thing can be a masking, right? So masking is going to be kind of a technique where you are having a name called a Surya, let's suppose, right? For the Surya, you wanted to take any random name that actually exists and you are replacing the Surya with that name of Ra, right? If you're having a word Chansi, then you are saying Yasmin, right? This is a word. That means instead of giving the real name, what you're doing, you are replacing that with someone else's name. right? So you are just trying to anonymize the name with the help of a masking it. For example, you have your own face. Rather than showing your own face, what you decided to do, you decided to wear a mask. Now it is not going to be your own actual name, but looks like a someone else, right? So that same technique can be applied when it comes to anonymization of the data. Okay. Now, next value can be like giving a bit of a noise in the data. For example, someone's salary was 30,977.622, right? If I get the exact value of the salary, it is very easy to recognize who the person was, right? It is going to be very sensitive data that we are having. But rather than that, what you can do, you can try just giving, uh, you can just try adding a bit of a noise in the data. Either you increase the salary by a certain amount, or either you decrease a salary by a certain amount, so that user or the people are not going to identify whose salary you are talking about, so that your exact value is not going to be shown to the different users, but it is going to be protecting your privacy. Okay, so that can also be done. When we talk about, right, one way is you are giving the data, and using this data you can first do the randomization, right? Just randomly replace the words. Second can be the aggregation, to hide the personal information from the user. Third can be the masking, where you are giving another name to the third person's name to the given name. Fourth can be the perturbation, where you are trying to give any noise in the data, where you are trying to add some noise in the data. Right? So, four easiest ways are there that can help you do the anonymization of your data. Now, another challenge that we are having is, what if the data that you are having right now, right? You cannot encrypt the data. Let's consider that. And the data is such a big amount of a data that you cannot hold it in your own system. So what you will be doing, you will be using the cloud, right? So whenever you are choosing the clouds, any cloud storage, right? The cloud storage can be what? It can be your Google Drive, it can be your iCloud, it can be your Microsoft OneDrive, it can be your AWS server. So most of the time, the agencies that will be providing you the free storage, or the free amount of a storage to a certain level, right? Not the big companies like a Google and the Apple, but some of the companies that are going to provide you the free storage, they are going to take some of your data also. So it's better not to give your personal information or sensitive information in such a cloud softwares or a cloud storage, but rather than using a much and more secure platforms to do the encryption. Okay. And your authentication identity, right? And whenever you are using these cloud servers, the very first thing is you should encrypt the data. Second thing is, uh, you can only access the data, make sure that you can only access the data with your authentication, right? And once the task has been done, make sure that you have deleted the data. You, along with that, make sure that you are managing the access of the data, who can access the given data, who cannot access the given data, and along with that, back up the given data, so that in future, if the data is getting deleted from the cloud server, it should not be deleted permanently. You have a backup of the data and you can access it in the future as well. Okay, so some of the platforms where you can try to extract the data can be AWS, right? Amazon AWS. Yes, some form of the, like, after up to a certain level, they are going to give you a free access, but after that, you have to pay them. Or it can be a cloud servers that we are having, like a Mongo Atlas is there, where you can store the data in the form of in the MongoDB database. Some amount of a storage they are going to provide, right? So in the Google, there are so many places from where you can just add up your data. And if you wanted to share it with some XYZ person, or if with your collaborators, you can always share it. But make sure wherever you are uploading your data, the data is encrypted. You can access the data only with the authenticity, right? with your identity. After the task has been done, make sure to delete the data and manage the access control. That means who can access your data. It should not be like anyone can come and access your personal data. If you wanted to share it with the world, yes, free to share it. But when it comes to your personal identification data, such kind of a data should be very securely logged, right? For example, let's suppose you are keeping your bank details in some mobile phones, right, in the form of a contacts, and your true caller says, okay, I would like to access your contacts, I would like to access your messages, then those bank details are also shared with the true caller or any of the XYZ application that you are having, right? And whenever you are uploading the data in the cloud, let's suppose that is not a secure server that where you are uploading, then they can use your personal information and misuse it as well. What can be the misuse that you can have? The very simple misuse can be a deepfakes. For example, in original the data was like this, right? This was a person that was having, but with the help of a deepfake, everything remains same, right? Everything, like the t-shirt, the background, everything remains same. Just the face has been changed, a little bit of a modification, same facial expression, right? Almost matching it. It is very difficult to identify which one is a real and which one is a fake one. And with the help of a deepfakes, these kind of images can be curated nowadays, right? Not only images, we can curate the audios, we can curate the videos, right? And we can do the messages are very simple techniques, right? And so far the misuse of a data that has been seen is like a nationwide children's hospital data is being used or the leaked, right? And the bank data has been leaked, credit card data has been used by some XYZ company, and the trade data that was available, right, that was also leaked. And so far it has been observed that 82% of the 2021 data breaches that were happening, right, that was because of the human errors only, right? It can be due to the stolen credentials, right, misuse of your personal information, phishing emails that they are doing. For example, you might get a spam email called as a lottery and all, and you try to open such kind of emails that are going to be harmful for you, right? That are going to be imposing a virus in your computers, and they can access your information, right? Or misconfiguration. You are giving the access to the applications without just reading the consent that what kind of a data that they are looking for, right? Without reading what they are asking for, you are just pressing on the yes button and giving the access control, right? So what we can do, right? What are the methods that we have already talked about? Let me just give you a summary of it. We can encrypt your sensitive information, improve the security of your network. Who can access your data? You have to control it. You have to take the backup of your data, and along with that, you have to improve the physical security of your data. For example, if you're using a network that is not secure, if you are connecting with a wi-fi, right, a public wi-fi, you are trying to connect from the public wi-fi, it is very easy to extract your information. Very easy, right? Anyone can come, right? Whoever is connected to that wi-fi, they can connect it to your phone as well. If you are connected to anyone's bluetooth, right, they can send you a malicious file that can extract all the information that is available in your system. So that way you have to be very careful whether the data that you are sharing is, right, whether from your end the data is correctly secured or not. If you are sharing your contact information, are you sharing your uh, emails, or are you sharing your bank information, are you sharing your messages from your phone, right? What kind of information the application is required, and are you giving some extra information or not that is even not required by the user? For example, in the Zomato, if you log in, you will be asked to give the location, but you can manually enter the location as well and specify, okay, I wanted the item to be delivered in this particular place. No need to get my all the day information, or no need to get my live information or live location information, right? That is not required at all. Okay. Now, when we talk about right the data, so we have to first fulfill the GDPR rules, right? Sensitive and the personal information should not be taken, right? Cross-border flows should not be there. We cannot store the data for the long-term purposes, and we have to make sure whatever policies that has been established, right? They all are fulfilled, and we are going to keeping up a small amount of a data that is required for our own purpose, but not misusing the information, right? So thank you everyone for giving me the time, right? Any questions, anyone? Please feel free to ask. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ms. Poonam, for providing such valuable insights. And I'm sure the learners must have learned a lot from you. And now it's time for our question and answer round. And we have been given few questions before the session, and they were like, and it's time that we have addressed them. So I'll read out the questions, and Ms. Poonam will provide you the insights. So yeah, first question for you, Ms. Poonam. So, how can individuals ensure their data is protected when interacting with AI powered systems?
Yeah, that's, I think, the most important question that I try to answer in between the session as well. First thing is, always read out what they are asking for, right? Whenever you are installing any applications, they might say, okay, chat gpt application or the bard application. Whenever you are using any application, what kind of information that you are sharing? Are they asking for your credit card details or not? Are they asking for any emails when you're logging it from your Gmail? Are you asking about your emails, reading of your emails or not? Are they capturing your mobile phone or the cameras or not? Are they taking the information from your mic or not? Right? The very small, small details, but yes, they are going to be the very sensitive information that you would never wanted to share it with some extra or the third party users, right? Yeah.
Yeah, correct, correct. Thank you. Next question is, what are the benefits of using AI for data protection compared to traditional methods?
Yes, when we are looking at the AI, right? Nowadays, obviously AI can be our friend, but it can be like not going to be the friend for us also. But if we are looking at AI to save or how we are going to protect our data, they are going to be doing a very long layer of encryption of the data. If we look at the data that is getting shared in the OpenAI platforms or the Bard or the Google platforms, right? They are using a lot of securities for us. So it's not always like everyone is going to misuse their information, but along with the security, yes, there are going to be the people who are going to misuse. So you have to be very careful.
Yeah, yeah, correct. Okay, next question. Are there any drawbacks or limitations to rely on AI for data security?
Yes, obviously, because
Yeah,
it is not a human, right? It is not going to understand
exactly.
what data it is getting shared or what data it is sharing with a third party. It is only going to specify, yes, seems like this data needed to be protected, maybe I should, but we cannot trust it. Even if you use a chat gpt, right, it is going to always say the answers might not be always correct, so be careful about it. So the
Yes.
protection that they are providing need not to be always a foolproof protection. You have to make sure that you are protecting your own data. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So, yeah, next question would be, how can businesses ensure they are using AI ethically and responsibly in data protection efforts?
Yes. So I think following the rules that they have lined up, right? GCPR rules that was given, anonymizing the data, right? Giving the securities, not sharing the data with the third party applications, and not using the personal information to the extent that is not required at all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, okay. Thank you. Thank you for that answer. Next and last question is, what step can someone take to ensure their own data protection in the age of AI?
Yes. So as we all know, right? If we are using any application, your data from a one application can be mapped with the data from the another application as well. So we have to make sure that we follow the government guidelines, first thing. Second thing is the data that we are sharing, we should be careful whether we are sharing our personal sensitive data or not. It can be the, are we switching off our cameras in the laptops or not? Even if we are talking with some person, right? Or doing the video calls, after that, are we switching off or not? Right? Those kind of information we should be very clear. Secondly, the cards information or maybe your personal information, right? That needed to be secured a lot.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for your all your answers. And as we have come to the end of our session, I want to extend my sincerest thanks to our wonderful guest for sharing her knowledge and expertise with us today. And we look forward for future opportunities to learn from you and continue benefiting from you, from your wealth of knowledge. And thank you so much, Ms. Poonam, for coming. And thank you so much, everyone, for being part of this session. Thank you so much, ma'am. And I hope you found it like as enlightening as and valuable as I did. This session was really interesting. And remember to keep exploring, learning, and growing. Until next time, take care, everyone. Goodbye. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.